Hi, this is Carolyn, and I'm here with Aaron, and I'm really excited my husband Mike is here with us tonight. He is a USTA 4.0, just for a little bit of background, but tonight we're going to talk about grunting. I played someone recently with a really long grunt, and I've played people who've grunted previously and it didn't bother me, but this time it did, and I think it bothered me more so because I've played other sports, and tennis is supposed to be such a quiet sport, and you're not allowed to talk, but you are allowed to grunt. So let's start with Mike. Has your opponent grunting ever bothered you?
No, I mean, normally most grunting doesn't bother me. I don't tend to notice it on the court. I know, there's sort of a wide distribution of people that grunt, right? Some people grunt, extremely loud on every single point, no matter what the shot is. Some people never make a noise on the court. And then most people are somewhere in the middle. I think I fall in the middle there. Like, I'll grunt on a point where I'm sort of reaching or having to really extend or push myself. I'll grunt, but I think for the most part, I'm sort of in the middle there. I do sometimes grunt, but not every single point. But for the most part, 99% of my opponents, I don't have any issue with, with being distracting on the court to me. So that's kind of where I've sort of always been. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah. I think I fall right where you do, because I know, like, I can't think, I know people that do grunt that we play against, but it doesn't typically bother me just because I know it's like just part of their game. I've actually gone out, I think I was watching a pro match, and, there's some that are notorious for grunting, like Maria Sharapova used to do it really bad when she was playing, and Azarenka does it, and of course, Serena, but on like hard shots and they scream. But I think I was watching a match and then had a clinic with a friend and was talking about making sounds, and I tried really hard to grunt as I was hitting, and it messed me up, and it made me laugh really hard. Like, I just can't do it. But I do know that I do it sort of quietly, like when I am trying to hit like a winner, and when I can hear myself I do hear myself doing it, but I'm sure other people don't hear it. But even that makes me laugh because it just seems like it's like so serious when I'm grunting, like, but it's just, I guess it's just sort of a natural thing, but I don't remember a lot of people that have done it that it's bothered me. But Carolyn, it sounds like you have had several people. Is it mostly singles? Is it doubles? It's run the gamut?
Yes, it's mostly singles, and it's the long grunts. It's like the grunt where the ball's still coming your way. Like, they've already hit the ball and you're still hearing their grunt.
It's like a follow through grunt.
Yes. And so I was telling Mike,
I was like, follow through grunt.
Yes. I was like, what's the difference between that and me yelling as I hit it to my opponent, miss it? Like for them, because they're making a noise. That's a hindrance. If I yell right after I hit the ball, a word, what's the difference between a word and then them still making a noise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. When it's
the gray area that we don't like.
Yeah, when it's such a long grunt that it can like linger for the whole time the ball's coming towards you. Yeah, that's interesting.
So I looked up the USTA rule on this.
What's the
friend at court?
Yeah, someone so, the
okay.
Rule.
This is page 42, number 37 of the code. And it says grunting. A player should avoid grunting and making other loud noises. Grunting and other loud noises may bother not only the opponents, but also players on adjacent courts. In an extreme case, an opponent or a player on an adjacent court may seek the assistance of an official. Grunting and the making of loud noises that affect the outcome of a point are hindrances. But then they go on to say, only an official may rule that these actions are hindrances in order that a let be played or a loss of a point, depending on whether an official had previously warned the offending player. So basically, there is no rule when we're playing, right? There's nothing.
Yeah,
we
which
can
means,
do.
yeah. Because there's no official at any of our matches ever. And even at states, we've asked for, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Mike, but we were at states and asked for an official to be on a court with someone that we knew made bad line calls. And they literally said, we don't have enough, or, there aren't enough volunteers, or we don't have an official on site. Like, we requested one and one couldn't come to our court. So in a regular match, a USTA match or whatever, there is no official to call.
No. So essentially the rule says try not to grunt. And if you do, then there's nothing that your opponent can do about it.
Right.
Your opponent can do.
So, okay.
Right.
So there's really not a rule.
So there's really not a rule.
There's really not a rule.
I was going to ask Mike, so what happens? I'm assuming probably a lot more men grunt than women. So do you find does it just not bother you? Do you find that a lot of men do it?
I think grunting is kind of like throwing your racket in men's versus women's, because Carolyn has said to me how shocked she was in one of her matches that an opponent threw a racket, and an opponent throws a racket in 1 out of every 2 matches I'm involved in. Not necessarily on my court, but if you're playing a USTA match, once every other week, someone will be throwing a racket around on a men's court. So I think grunting kind of feels like maybe it's the same thing. There are lots of men that grunt and yell and are much more vocal on the tennis court than I think maybe on the women's court. I think I kind of think of it as a bell curve, like I talked about earlier. I think most people are in the middle in that average. We make some noises when we're really struggling or really trying hard to reach a ball or really trying to nail that overhead or whatever. And then on either end, there's people that are super quiet, and there's people that grunt really loud or have just odd grunts.
Every time they hit the ball.
Every time they hit the ball. Or it just sounds weird. And those people stand out as exceptional grunters. And I can think of a handful of those people that I know or have seen on the tennis court around here. So, but I don't think it's as prevalent as like in the professional game. It seems like there's some really extreme grunting going on. Like you mentioned earlier, Aaron.
Yeah. I think a couple of the commentators actually, like Martina Navratilova actually complains about it, because I don't think she ever did it in her time. And so she thinks it's just ridiculous and it's gotten out of hand. I actually watched a match today, one of the lead up tournaments to the Australian Open, and Sabalenka was playing, and she's known, she goes big or she goes bigger. She has no in between. And they actually said, like, when she's struggling, she starts to grunt even more because she hits the ball harder as opposed to like pulling it back a notch, So they always listen for that she's going even more.
Yeah. And see, after the girl was grunting on every single stroke, I looked it up and I was like, is grunting beneficial? And I found an article from The Guardian in 2018. It said, what can the science tell us about grunting in tennis? And basically it is. So what they said is that grunting could be considered performance enhancing for the grunter and performance hindering for their opponent. And they've done some preliminary experimental work that showed grunting may mask important auditory information used by an opponent because they're grunting as they're hitting the ball. So you can't hear anything. Mm-hmm. And they said they took skilled university tennis players, and they were found to hit 3.8%. There was a 3.8% increase in ground stroke hitting velocity when they grunted. And then for their serve, there was a 4.9% enhancement in velocity when they grunted.
And since we're a data-driven society now, that probably means that it's here to stay, and that even future generations will become even louder because they'll start teaching it in college. It sounds like.
Hey, if it increases your velocity by 5% almost, it says on a serve, 4.9%.
Yeah. So what you said was we basically need to start grunting, Carolyn, to increase our velocity.
Yes. I'm the dummy for not grunting.
Another thing we've got to practice and remember. Tennis is already hard enough.
Practice your grunt.
Practice grunt.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I don't know about the increase because we don't have radar guns when we play either. One of the things we don't have access to. But we do have some courts in the area where some of the courts are in loud areas next to a highway or or like next to a fire station where the fire trucks are constantly going in and out. And it actually is very distracting when you can't hear the sound of that ball coming off the opponent's string because of the traffic on the interstate that's right next to the tennis court. You do lose some information on those points when the opponent hits the ball.
And the other thing too with tennis, I mean, with college tennis though, is I think in the last few years, and Carolyn, I think we talked about this a long time ago, they're actually increasing a lot of crowd noise. Like they have, it's almost like Fed Cup, right? Where it's like cowbells and cheering and,
Yes.
pretty soon there'll be cheerleaders. And so there's like all this commotion, which in a way, I think especially for like, our adult rec tennis, I think people get really irritated if there's like a baby crying. You're playing at a park. I mean, you're playing a tennis match at a park, and there's
Right.
a kid on a playground screaming, and then like your opponent gets upset about that poor child that just wants, whatever. But so I think it does become ridiculous that it is a sport that people feel like has to be played in silence almost.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the trend again is, maybe the trend is grunting. It sounds like it might be here to stay. But I think the trend also is just make it not so quiet, like tennis. And what other sports are super quiet? Tennis, golf.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably all.
Yeah. But it did mess me
I'm
up.
like, what other?
When I played someone that grunted, it really did. And then I played someone previously a few years ago, and she was lovely and very good. And every time she hit the ball, every time, even in warm-up, she goes, ee! Every single time it was an ee! And so much so, it was like a scream that my teammate who was playing singles on the court next to me goes, "Hey, it sounds like you got a screamer on your court." Like it was so annoying. Which I'm fine with. It's just if an E is allowed, then I think I should be able, when I hit the ball, to say miss it to them or take this or
Exactly.
Like why is one allowed and one not?
Yeah.
That's my only issue.
Right.
You don't like the gray zones.
Yeah, she does not. She likes a set rule. She wants to read it in black and white. I told you I had a kid that was heckling me. Right. He was actually saying, I thought he was saying, remember I told you that, right? He was like 3 years old, and he was saying, I was playing his mother in singles, and I thought he was saying Nutri-Grain or Nutri-Bar, like some sort of food, but he was like going, na, na, na. And I kept saying, I finally said, well, what is he saying? And she goes, "Hey buddy, what are you saying?" And he said, "Miss the ball," or something like that. He was heckling me. I guess I could have called a hindrance on his mother for bringing her 3-year-old, but I just let it go. Because again, it's adult rec tennis, and then you become the strange one if you complain about it, as opposed to the person that's actually doing the hindrance, right?
Yes.
You're right. Well, I know, Carolyn, you grew up playing basketball, and Carolyn always says, like, why can't it be like, like the Duke Blue Devils basketball fans? Why can't you have that?
Right.
If these players in the basketball arena are trying to shoot a free throw, with people spinning,
and everyone's behind them.
Everybody's behind them. The band's, spinning their signs around behind the basketball, behind the goal. Well, why can't we deal with that in tennis?
Exactly. Exactly.
Thanks very much to Mike for joining us. I now feel like I'm the dumb one on the court for not grunting a lot. But let us know what you think. You can message us on our website, which is secondservepodcast.com. You can also listen to previous episodes on our website. Mike has done a few before that have been really popular, including whether your racket matters and whether your strings matter. So we hope you check those out. Thanks so much for listening, and hope to see you on the court soon.